Is Overwatch back? This week, the big Overwatch update not only, I think, doubled their record on Steam at least, but it didn't even show BattleNet. But the game actually had a good public facing opinion for the first time since before Overwatch 2. Blizzard's done a lot of things to improve the game over the last year, but I think this one was the biggest. Not to mention, this release had more characters and more content than the Overwatch 2 release. So today we're going to talk about, is Overwatch actually back, and did Blizzard finally save face publicly towards the casual, more general gaming community? I think there's been a couple things that we learned for sure over the last week. It's that people don't want to hate Overwatch, right? I think I'm going to quote Naruto, and I think Mamoru Uchiha from Naruto, and this is such a true line. This is why Naruto, in my opinion, is the greatest story ever told. He said, there can't be hate without immense love first. It's like the entire storyline of the Uchiha, where you can't hate something and feel such a strong emotion towards it if it wasn't something that you really loved first a lot of the time in the world. Like, you can dislike something, but you can't hate it to the degree that a lot of people did. And that's what Overwatch 2 represented and stood for. Overwatch 2 was the embodiment and the branding of what Blizzard took away, which was the only shooter to win Game of the Year in the previous decade. Like, I know all you millennials out there, and I'm a millennial. I made the cut by 1 year. And older Gen Z people know, around 2016, Overwatch was the most impactful game release outside of Fortnite in the multiplayer space. 100%. Overwatch walked and crawled so Fortnite could run. I genuinely believe that Overwatch was the first match in the powder keg to make gaming mainstream, and Fortnite built off of that success. Like the memes that came out of Winston's. So many things, man. People looked back on that game so fondly. And Overwatch 2 as a brand, no matter what Blizzard did, was always going to be the representation of what they failed, which is why leaving it behind was the best thing they could have done. And I said this a year and a half, 2 years ago, pre-Marvel Rivals, all this stuff. And, I'd like to say I was on the money about it. You get labeled, you got labeled as a doomer in the Overwatch community, but that is genuinely just how gamers from the outside looking in viewed Overwatch. And Blizzard could make the best update ever. They could make the best update ever, and it wouldn't make a difference because the stain that was Overwatch 2 on the branding. And I think this update actually proved that, in that, look, what they added here wasn't anything new outside. The characters were new, but it was building off the foundation that they set last year with Perks, right? Perks was the foundation to build off and make this update. And I loved the Perks update. I kind of talked about that pretty extensively. I thought it was a very, very good update. And that was really exciting. But the big new character release, the big menus, telling the story in game, these are all things that, I want to say Rivals got them in gear. Rivals did get them in gear, but Rivals didn't come up with this. It's just, ironically, the formula that they copied from Overwatch 1. Because if you look at this is what Overwatch 1 did. The Retribution events, man. The Uprising events. I remember the Archives events were the most exciting times of the year in Overwatch 1. We would always be waiting in April for the new Archives event to drop because we were finally getting real Overwatch story. And while I'm not a fan of how they started this one off, and I admit, you guys know why. I'm a biased Doomfist enjoyer. I mean, they sat on this guy for 10 years. Terry Crews was so popular. Terry Crews, that's how mainstream Overwatch was begging to be the voice actor for Doomfist. It was one of the top 5 biggest games in the entire world. Everybody wanted a piece of it. So it was so disappointing for me. And I know, Doomfist is not dead, but his aura is dead. The first thing they do with him after 10 years is get him axed. Seriously? Come on, man. Come on. We want more. What the heck? It irritates me. But no, I mean, they're telling the story in game, and it's really cool that they're doing that, and it's back to the Overwatch 1 roots. The reality is, they went back to their original formula. They left the branding behind, and they turned the page. And the reception for the game, outside of Jetpack Cat being incredibly annoying, has been really good this season. And that just goes to show you a lot of the stuff that the quote-unquote doomer content creators were saying before Rivals came in and took everyone's lunch money were correct. It was correct, and it showed humility from Blizzard. Not just humility, but it let them move on. I think genuinely the biggest thing about this was not the actual characters and content they put in the game, but this is something Avril and Spilo talked about as well on when we were on podcast together, like right when Rivals came out, is that Overwatch had a big marketing issue. It had an image issue that you could not solve. And that was the reality of the two. But let's talk a little bit about what actually needs to change for the game to continue on its good path and on this trajectory. I think, number one, if they fix the report system, straight up, they've got to they need to unban Derpy. I'm not kidding. Like, if I've been on the money with this so far. If they unban Derpy's account and get way laxer on the report system and quit trying to make ranked a quote-unquote safer space, which is, again, like outright what they have said about why the report system is what it is and why these things are what they are. If they unban Derpy and just make things more lax, because here's the reality, and if somebody from Blizzard sees this, this is the reality. You can why are we acting like people on the internet cannot press a block or mute button outside of extreme targeted harassment, which is different. But I'm just talking about where 99% of these things happen, which is in a random rank game with a random person. The idea that you can't just block them and not deal with it is insane. The fact that these accounts are being closed, you're having accounts being closed for saying you're bad, or you're a noob, or bad at Doomfist. Stuff like that are literal cited reasons as to why accounts were permanently closed. These accounts could have spent thousands on cosmetics. They could be multi-year-long players where if their communication is that bad, a mute would suffice. I'm not saying, but I think you really only should mute for people slurring. But outside of that, let people banter, let people talk. Like, it's destroyed the social atmosphere of the game. If they walk that back, add more stuff in the game for like choosing talent or Overwatch each season and stuff like that, the game actually is back. That's like the one big thing that I think that they need to get on, and a big step to doing that. If they wanted to make a big PR move, unironically unban Derpy's account. That would be headlines everywhere, and it would show the world that Overwatch is going back to being a more normal game again. That's what needs to happen. They need to say, look, we are a normal classic game now. We aren't going to be banning accounts like this. We're walking our Overwatch 2 update back. We were wrong. We have a content cycle that's like Marvel Rivals. And what people forget is there really is no excuse for Overwatch to be a worse game or a less popular game than Rivals. If you look at how much better Overwatch's game engine is. The only thing that Overwatch missed over the years were the intangibles, and they've slowly but surely been walking those things back and course correcting over the span of really, I would say Aaron's first year was a bit of a warm-up year, right? Because you got to get settled and you got to figure things out. And frankly, like the Overwatch 2 ship, that was the Titanic heading on a direct course to the iceberg, and there was nothing you could do about it. Like, I'll be fair to Aaron here. There was nothing he could do to stop that from happening. Nothing. That was a mess made by his predecessors, and he couldn't do a thing about it. But now it's actually starting to come to fruition, their new kind of design direction, what they want to do. And really, Rivals did force them to get in gear. Rivals was the best thing that happened to Overwatch because Marvel Rivals killed Overwatch 2. People got upset with me when I had my video talking about how Rivals killed Overwatch 2. It did, and it's a good thing for Overwatch. It was the best thing that could have happened. And I know like so many debates around the game got very heated, very emotional, right? And that's because a lot of people cared. Oh, there goes my Slack, Rutrow. That's because a lot of people cared. And, you know, it's really in hindsight. And now that everything's kind of come full circle, it really shows that it was the best thing to happen for Overwatch. I think the game's in the best spot that it's been in now because of how the Overwatch developers stepped up. And if they can make a return to normalcy, telling the story about the Overwatch world, I do think they also could do a little bit better of a job of maintaining escapism in the game. I'm not going to bark up that tree today, but I think if they can keep the fantasy of Overwatch and allow people to escape, this is what Rivals does so well, and Danny Q made a big point about this, where they don't want to bring a lot of real-world stuff into the game because they want to maintain the fantasy of the Marvel verse. And the Overwatch verse has so many untold stories in it, so many routes that they could go down. I think that should be where Blizzard's focus is 110%. and no extracurriculars because they've messed it up on social media a lot. Outside of walking stuff back, they need to walk stuff back, focus on the core game, and continue on the path they're going on now. And I'd say, honestly, guys, Overwatch is kind of back. I think that this update and dropping the 2 did give the game the fresh reset that it needed amongst casual gamers to say, oh, I'm not getting on that game ever again. Like, the fact they getting rid of the 2 was probably the best thing they could have done, because why would you want on the front of your store a constant reminder of the promises that you failed to deliver? That would have it was a huge mistake to do that. It's finally gone. I'm happy they were able to turn the page here and move on. Hopefully we see some reversions on the report system. Hopefully we see a reversion back to 6v6, man, like as the main mode. I'll be honest, guys, I really don't like playing 5v5, and my 6v6 games are like sniped constantly, or like honestly the lobby quality in 6v6 is still just really, really bad, with a lot of good players moving to rivals and the pro format being 5v5. That's where all like the real grinders are. And so the core game in 6v6 open queue is super casual. And I don't really enjoy the lobby quality. But that's a personal preference, and it's really important to be able to make a distinction between like your personal preference and like what is like there, you know what I mean? So like that's why I don't lump it into this greater conversation, but you know, it's good to see, and the perks update's really carrying too. So yeah, I think Overwatch kind of is back. Is it going to be the biggest game in the world? I think Deadlock is going to take the cake for that. I have another video coming out on Deadlock soon. It's such a good game, man. I cannot begin to express how awesome Deadlock is. But yeah, guys, I'd say that they finally have kind of redeemed Overwatch 2. It took some humbling. It took a couple years, but these are the kind of success stories that you want to see in life. You know, it really reminded me how much people loved Overwatch, and that's why everyone was so angry about Overwatch 2, because it took something they loved, and I'm glad that Blizzard has gotten past that branding. What do you guys think? Is Overwatch back? Are you playing more now? Let me know down below. Hit that sub button if you're new. Take care. Much love. Peace out, boys. We got a lot right over the years, didn't we? We really did. But hey, sometimes you got to be the doomer creator if you're a truth teller. See y'all. Peace out.